Hello, my name's Gina and I'm part of the new Carnival Company team. Today I'm going to be showing you how to create a simple handheld lantern. Now this lantern's been made out of willow and covered with tissue paper, and it has a very bright LED light inserted inside. So let's just switch that on so you can have a little look. Now let me just turn that round and you can see all the decorations on the inside of the lantern there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a step-by-step guide on how to create the frame first. Then we'll insert our lights and then we'll be looking at how to decorate and cover your lantern. Now this is a medium-sized lantern, so you may wish to make yours a little bit smaller, or you might wish to take it a little bit larger. And if you like, you can experiment with the shape on the top here. It's entirely up to you. So let's make our lantern. So let me show you how to create your lantern frame. So to start off with, we're going to be creating the top of our lantern, which is a pyramid shape. We're then going to extend down from the pyramid to create a handle, and then we're going to look at how to attach an LED light in the centre there. For this, you're going to need some willow, which is very flexible but very strong. You're going to need something to measure your lengths of willow, so we've got a tape measure, or you could use a tailor's measuring cloth there, or you could simply use a ruler, which is what I'm going to be using. Also need something to cut your willow. So here I've got a pair of pliers, or you could use some wire cutters, or you could use some secateurs. It depends what you've got to hand really. And also we're going to need masking tape. Okay, so let's begin to create our lantern. So to start off with, I'm going to prepare my willow, which means I'm going to cut off the very wispy end bits. Can you see there? It's very whippy, so be careful, especially young children, no playing swords with them please. I'm going to cut down about 18 inches and remove that very thin end piece, because it's not very good for creating the actual main structure of our lantern, but it is good for decoration. So I'm going to put them to one side and use them a bit later. So let's pop that over there. I'm also going to trim off the very end there. Can you see it's usually quite split and a little bit twisted? So I'm just going to cut that off. Now I'm going to hold on to that as I cut it, or you can cut it underneath the table, because they do tend to fire off and they can be a little bit dangerous. So I'm going to cut that off and that goes in the bin. Okay, so I'm going to prepare all my willow rods ready for my lantern, and also I'm going to prepare my masking tape, and I've cut off strips here. You can use scissors to cut it, or you can just tear it simply like so. That's about 6 inches to about 15 centimetres, and then just place it along my table. I've got lots of bits already prepared, ready for my lantern. You'll be surprised how many you're going to get through. So now I'm going to begin to create the pyramid top of my lantern. I'm going to take one of the rods that I've already prepared, and I'm going to start to measure out the rods that I need. So I'm going to make a medium-sized rod. So I'm going to measure down about 8 inches and give that a cut. And again, I'm holding on to it because they do tend to fire off. And then instead of keep measuring and measuring, I'm just going to measure that, stick against my rod there, and make another cut so they're all exactly the same size. So these rods are going to make the square of my pyramid. There we go. I've got 1, 2, 3, one more. Again, I'm just holding on so that doesn't fire off. I might save that bit for later. So I've got 4 pieces, exactly the same length, which is going to create my square. Now to do this, I'm going to take one piece of masking tape. I'm going to pop it along the edge there, about 3 centimetres to 1 inch. Squeeze it around, so that's going on lengthways, and it creates a little pocket here to pop your other stick in. Okay, so I'm just going to lay that down. I'll pop that in there, and then I can show you like so. So it's created a little pocket, and then I'm going to wrap that around the stick there, then back around the other stick in a sort of a figure of an 8, and make a nice tight joint. So you want to pull that tape quite hard into the centre there. Let's have a little look at that. There we go. So that actually is fixed quite firmly, and I can continue doing that all the way around. I'll show you one more time. So we're just going to pop it lengthways I've made a little pocket and I've popped the other stick up there like so, and just make sure that those sticks are actually meeting at the join there and there's no gaps or anything. You really want this to be a nice strong frame. And let's pop the last one in there. So again, we're going to attach it lengthways, make a little pocket, pop it in there. Sometimes it's actually easy working in pairs, so somebody can be holding it for you while you're wrapping the tape around. Okay, there we are. And if it feels a little bit flimsy, that one doesn't feel as tight as the others, so I'm just going to add another little bit of tape around there just to make sure that really is on there firmly. And then the last stick to go on there to create our square. So one more time, let's pop that in that pocket and wrap it round. So there we have it, there's the base of our pyramid. I always like to go around and just give it an extra squeeze at the end there, like so. There we are. And let's pop that down on the table. Okay, so now I'm going to measure up 4 pieces to make our pyramid shape. So for this I'm going to be using my tape measure again, and for this is going to be about 12 inches, which is 20 centimetres. So let's find that on my ruler. Okay. Now if your stick is a little bit wonky, like this one's got a bit of a curve in it, you can actually just gently sort of manipulate it into a long straight length. It's quite flexible, Willow. Okay, so I've got my length, I'm happy with that, and I'm just going to use that as my measure all the way down the end there and cut it again holding on. Please be careful with your cutters and your pliers or your secateurs, whatever you're using, because they are sharp and they will give a nasty nip if you're not careful. So I wouldn't suggest really young people using it. Okay, so I've got 3 there. I'm going to have to take another willow length because I've run out there, and measure down one more time. That's it, give it a cut, pop that out of the way. So let's just check to make sure they're all the same length. There we go, that's not too bad. Now this one's a little bit trickier, getting it on the edge there. I'm going to do the same though. I'm just going to add a piece of willow lengthways, masking tape lengthways along my willow to create a pocket there. And then I'm going to take a corner, pop that right on the edge there. It's not sticking out over, it's just on top, and I'm going to wrap it around itself. Again, sometimes it's better to work in twos. As you can see, it's a little bit fiddly. So I've wrapped it around the corner there and back around the stick that I'm going up in the air. And actually let me show you. There we go. So that's quite a nice firm join there. Let's do that again on the other sides. You can actually hang it off the table a little bit. It's another way of doing it. Pop it down and then you can pop it up under there. I don't know if you can see that very well. My hands was probably in the way. But it does make it a little bit easier actually. It's a little bit more accessible. There we go. So we've got 2 pieces on there. Let's put the 3rd piece and the 4th piece on. Okay, I've got all 4 pieces of willow on. Now I want to bring them up to the centre. Bring those pieces all together to create my pyramid shape. So I'm really pleased with that. Let's just apply the tape the same as before, lengthways. And I'm just going to grab the opposite stick and just wrap that around. It's a little bit fiddly. Wrap it around one, around the other. So can you see that? I'll just put those 2 together, then I'm going to bring the other 2 together in the same fashion. So my tape goes lengthways over the top there to meet the other one, and then I'm going to wrap that around that stick, and then I'm going to wrap those around the other 2 sticks that I've already stuck together. And I might just get one more bit of tape on there and go around all of them again. So wrapping that around that one, and around that one, and then maybe over the top, just to make sure they feel really firmly stuck together. So there we go. Now is actually quite a nice firm base for our lantern. So next I'm going to extend down from my pyramid to create a handle for my lantern. I'm going to be using about 20 inches of my willow for this. So let's measure that out. There we go, and again cut it, minding my fingers and making sure it doesn't fire off. So there's my length. I'm quite happy. That's a little bit wonky. Let's manipulate that into a nice straight line. That's much better. And then that one, ooh, it's a little bit too short. Let's get another one. All right, let's measure that up. And again, you want to be using quite the thick ends of your sticks, the thin wispy bits. Let's just measure them. There we go. And then 2 more. Too small, but 1, 2, 3, and 1 more. There we go. Okay, let's just make sure they are all the same length. Let's move that out of the way so we can see. There we go. Now that one's a little bit wonky there. See the curve on that? So I'm just going to just gently bend that into a nice straight stick there. There we go. So again, we're going to take our lantern, place a bit of masking tape along the end of our rod there, and then we're going to attach it around the bottom of our pyramid, the square, and just wrap it around top there, back around the stick, and back over again. You might want to put a couple of pieces on this. I think that's going to hold actually. Let's turn that around. So again, take a piece of tape, wrap it around there. Now, if you can see, I'm actually putting my sticks at a slight angle so that they come together and join at the bottom there. Don't worry if they're a little bit floppy, because it will all strengthen once you've got all 4 pieces in for your handle, and you can always come in with a little bit more tape as well if need be. Okay, let's move that round. Let me just get the other 2 on. Okay, so I've got all 4 pieces coming down to create my handle, and again we want to make sure we pull them in at the bottom there, and we're going to tape those together. So I've just noticed I've run out of tape, so let's quickly load up with a little bit more tape there. That's 6 inches, 15 centimetres. I should only need a few pieces now, hopefully. There we go. So let's measure this. I'm going to pop all 4 pieces down, and I think we'll do the same as before. Let's join the opposite 2 together first. So let's take my long length of tape, pop it on there, use the opposite one. So then wrap it around the other stick there. It's a little bit fiddly, but make sure they are joined together. And they're quite flush at the bottom there. You don't want them, or else you're going to find your handles a bit wonky. So I've done that one there. Okay, and now I'm going to bring the opposite 2 into play. So let's put a bit of tape lengthways, bring them up to that. I might actually just add that one on first. That's it, wrap that round. So now I've got 3 sticks stuck together. And then let's get the last one on. Again, making sure that joins there, like so. And then I'm just going to get an extra bit of tape and really squeeze those in together and make sure they're not going to come undone, because this is where you're going to be holding your lantern. Okay. So next thing we need to do is attach our light in the middle. So now let's attach our LED light. So here we have quite a powerful LED light there. It's got quite a few around the edge there. So let's just pop our batteries in and make sure it's working. So let's pop those in quickly. Make sure you get them around the right way as well. Let's pop the back on there. Let's check that Yeah, that's working really well. Fantastic. So next thing we need to do is take our lantern. So there's the handle at the bottom there. I need just to find out whereabouts my light is going to sit in my lantern. We don't want it right at the top here because it's only going to project light upwards. So as far down as possible without it sticking out of the lantern. And I think it's probably going to go roughly about there. So you might want to put just a little mark on there, or just a little bit of tape maybe, just so you know where you want your light fixed. So there we are, I've just put a little marker in there, or you could do it with a bit of pen. Okay, so the next thing is to take one of our scrap pieces of Willow, and we're going to go across. We're going to make a cross for our light to sit on. So I'm going to go from that marker straight across like so. I've just put my thumb where that needs to be cut, and then let's cut that off. Again, let's just be careful we don't fire that. So that's going to go across there. Just check to make sure that does fit. Yep, that fits fine. So let's attach that now. Again, I'm going to go lengthways. I always find that's the best way of working for me. And then I'm just going to wrap that around. Can you see what I'm doing there? So let's wrap that around the edge there. Squeeze it all in, make sure that's well and truly on there. And that's going to go straight across to the other side. So let's get another piece of tape. And we're going to wrap that around that other stick. So make sure those sticks are actually touching. And it's not, we don't want it to be at an angle, it needs to be nice and straight. So let's just have another little look at that. Let's hold that up. So it's going straight across there. It's not at an angle, it's nice and flat. So let's just check the light again before I put the other one in. Yeah, that's going to fit lovely in there. So again, I'm going to measure across. And I want to make sure this stick as well sits on top of the stick we've already popped in there. So let's find the marker. It's about there. I'm going to cut that off again. This is a little bit, now this might shoot off, so what you can do, you can actually cut underneath your table so that it avoids hitting anybody in the face. Let's just double check that fits across there. Yep, that's lovely. So we're making that cross. Can you see that? Let's get a bit of tape on the end there. Let's pop that across there. Like so, making sure that really is touching the other crossbar you've already popped in there. So it just makes it nice and strong base for your light. Let's pop another bit of tape in there. Let's have a little look. Okay. So there we have our crossbar. So now I'm just going to pop a little bit of tape just around the two of those to keep them together. Just everything that you add to a lantern just makes the lantern that little bit more stronger. Okay, so these bottom bits are not moving at all now, that's really solid. Then I'm going to pop my light in there. Now to do that, I'm going to use 2 cable ties going across underneath the cross and over the top of the lantern. So underneath there and over the top. Again, this might be a 2-man job, it's a little bit fiddly. I'm going to just start, because I'm on my own here, I'm just going to start by just attaching that underneath there. I'm going to pop my light in, hold it down like so, and then tighten that up. So can you see that? It's gone underneath the cross and over the top there. I'm going to give that an extra pull so it's nice and tight. Just make sure you don't put your cable tie across your button, because that's happened before and we've gone to light up our lantern at an event and unfortunately you can't access the button because the cable tie is on top. So just beware of that. So let's pop another one across, bearing that information in mind. Actually, I'm going to go underneath there, it's going to be a bit easier for me. Over the top, I'm just going to pop it on a little bit. Let's pop it in place there. I'm happy with that. Okay, you can just move that around a little bit just to adjust it, to make sure that's actually in your lantern. It's sticking out a little bit at the side there, so I may have wanted to have come up just a little bit more, but I don't think that's going to cause too much of a problem. Then I'm just going to snip these ends off. Do be careful that when you cut cable ties, they do become very sharp on the edge there. So I'm just going to snip those off and pop them straight into a bin. Okay, let's have a little look. So there we have it. There's our basic frame for our lantern. So now we can begin to personalise our lantern. So the little pieces that we cut off earlier, the thin ends, we can use these to decorate our lantern and just give it that personal touch. You can decorate it in many different ways, many patterns. You could go across like that, or we could go up. I think I'm just going to have a little play with that, and then I shall show you the results in a moment. Okay. So now I've completed my frame. I've decorated it in a variety of ways, just to give you some examples really. Here you can see I've done a crisscross pattern with my sticks. This side I've just gone straight up vertically, right up to the point. And this side I've put in some arches across like that. And this side I've just gone horizontally across. So you can decorate your lantern however you want to. I just want to share one other thing with you. When I was putting my decorations in, these end bits can become a little bit brittle, a little bit dry. If you find they snap, you can just soak them in some water for about 10 seconds, 15 seconds, let them dry off a little bit, and you'll find they're a little bit more pliable, okay? So here you can see I've put an arch in there and an arch in at the top. I'm just going to attach another one in here. Hopefully it won't break, like so. So I just take a bit of tape. I'm just going to attach it on the side there, like so, just to hold that still. Then I'm going to bring it across to the other side and attach it down the edge of that rod there. And then I can trim off the end pieces and just make sure that I haven't got anything nasty poking out. I can see one down there actually. I'll put a bit more tape on there. So let's just trim those edges off. I don't know if you can see that very well. I'll have to move my camera a little bit. There we go. And then I've popped in an arch there. So there's many different ways you can decorate your lantern and just give it those personal touches. You might want to do lots of different decorations, or you might want to do the same design all the way round. It's entirely up to you. The other thing as well I'd like to say is that when you do attach the thinner pieces for decoration, is to make sure that you do attach it to the main frame and don't have them hovering in the middle of your lantern, because when we go to tissue paper, those pieces might stick out, okay? And it will spoil the overall effect of your lantern. So let's get round to papering it. So let me show you how to cover your lantern. First of all, I've prepared my table with a plastic bag. So I've just cut a plastic sack open and stuck it down with some gaffer tape to my table so it doesn't move around. I've also made sure I've got an apron on, because we're going to be using Copydex glue. Now Copydex glue is latex based, so if you're allergic to latex, I wouldn't use this glue. And I've watered it down with 50-50 water, so it's half Copydex and half water mixed around. So it's the consistency of sort of a single cream. We also need a sponge, okay? And I've got here, we've got what we call a sulfite paper, so it's wet strength paper. So when glue's added to this paper, it doesn't fall apart like traditional tissue paper. It's a little bit more rigid, okay? So I've got various sizes here. I've cut them into larger piece there for the larger areas of my lantern. And I've got a slightly smaller going down in size down to the smallest, which is for the smaller areas of my lantern. So let me just rearrange this slightly so I can grab the pieces when I need them. I think that will do. Okay, so we're going to begin by putting your sponge into your glue, like so. Now squeeze out the excess glue, you don't want too much on it. Then I'm going to make a square on the table, the same size as the piece of paper that I'm going to be using. Now if you notice, I'm actually putting this in the centre of my table and not on the edge. If it's on the edge, we've got to risk it going down on me and onto the floor and onto your shoes and making a mess. Be warned, Copydex does not come out of clothes, and if you get it on in your hair, it doesn't come out of your hair, or if you get it on your arms, it will pull your hairs out while you try and take it off. So try and use the smallest amount possible just on your fingertips. So let's just make sure that it's really soaked down onto the table like so. I'm going to take a medium size piece of paper. Let's lay that down, let that soak in. Can you see that there? And then I'm going to glue from the centre outwards. If we go from the outside in, it tends to rumple off the paper, which we don't want. We don't want lots of creases in it. So I'm just working my way around and making sure that that is completely soaked through. And again, it might be easier to work in twos. Somebody's holding the lantern, the other person is applying the paper. Let me just rearrange that bit so you can see what I'm doing. So now I'm just going to start at the top of my lantern and I'm going to work my way down. So I'm going to pick up that, let's move that. Let's pick up the piece of paper that I've soaked with glue. I'm going to hold on to the two edges like so and don't let go. If you let go, it will collapse in on itself and it most probably you won't be able to use it. Then I'm just going to lay this on the top of my lantern and just let it fall wherever it wants to. And then you can just smooth it round like so. I've got a little bit down here. I'm just going to tuck that under to make sure that it's really fixed on there. Like so, and then that piece at the end there, I'm just going to wrap that round just where it wants to fall. Can you see that? So let's go for another bit of paper. I'm just going to add a little bit more glue, not too much. I don't want these pieces of paper dripping wet because they take ages to dry and you might risk getting glue on the floor. So I'm going to take another medium piece of paper actually. I think sometimes it's easier working with the slightly smaller pieces. There we go. So from the centre out to the edges, make sure that is completely covered. And now I'm going to add this to my lantern. Now I'm just going to overlap this slightly, but not too much. Okay, so I'm just going, it's supposed to be overlapping about 3 centimetres an inch. And again, I'm just letting that fall wherever it wants to. Now over here, we've got a bit of a flap here, so what we can do is just literally make like a little tuck and just lay that down and fold it round. So we want to try and get this paper on as flat as we possibly can. Okay, you might end up with a few wrinkles in it, but it won't show too much. And we want to make sure that it's actually sticking to our willow. So you can just go in afterwards and dab that down. If you have a little look, you can see my willow sticks coming through the edge there like so. There we are, but again just be careful not to get that on your arms. Let's turn that round a bit. Let's just dab those down there. Let's get another piece. Let's pop that, I'll turn that round a little bit so you might be able to see it. So I'm going to start working my way down the lantern. Again another medium piece. Add a little bit more glue to the table. Should be enough, it's quite wet actually. Let's pop that on there. So it's quite a simple technique. Your fingers will get quite sticky, so every now and then you might just want to go to the bin and rub your hands together. And Copydex does come off quite easily. It's a rubber based glue, so it will come off your hands quite easily, but it will take everything else off with it, including your little fine hairs. So just be careful not to get it all over your hands. So I'm going to take another piece, lay that down on top of there like so. So it's just overlapping a little bit on the piece of paper below. And again, let's get the sponge and just dab it on, just to make sure that that's stuck onto your lantern. So let's have a little look. There we go. And I'm going to turn this around and just keep working my way down the lantern until we get to the light. Now when we get to the light, we need to leave a little gap so we can actually switch the light on. Don't worry if you forget, because you can always cut out a little square once this is dried. So let me just finish decorating this with the tissue paper. So now I've finished covering my lantern, I'm just going to leave it to dry. I'm not going to leave it on the table because it'll end up sticking to the table. So I'm going to prop it up somewhere like so, against a wall or something, just to let that dry off. It shouldn't take too long, maybe up to about an hour maximum. And then I'm going to illuminate it tonight. We can see now actually those patterns coming through. That's quite impressive, isn't it? That does look lovely. But I'm going to wait until the sun goes down and then we'll see what it looks like at night time. So here I have my finished lantern and I'm very pleased with it. You can see all the decorations inside there that we've created with the offcuts of willow. You also have an option to decorate this a little bit further. So let me just share this with you. So here I have another lantern I've made. This is a little bit smaller and it hasn't got all the decorations inside that we created on the other one out of the offcuts of willow. This one I've just decorated with some black paper. So I've just cut out some shapes, dabbed some glue onto the lantern, pop the shape on and then dab some glue over the top just to seal it in. So there we go. Let's take a little closer look at that. There's also another option to make a little bit larger lantern here. So this one, I've just created an interesting shape at the top there. So I've just used the main pyramid shape and then just brought some structures out at the sides there. So let's just have a little look at that one. So thank you very much for viewing our video today. I hope you enjoy making your lantern. Please follow us on the New Carnival Company Facebook page and you can also view our website. Thank you very much and take care.